What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Finish Line. I'm your host, Cody Kaler, as always. And today we have a very special guest. His name is Eric Williams. A lot of you guys on my friends list, all my connections probably know Eric. Eric's been in this industry for quite a while. I think that I met him a few years ago at DATCon or TIA or something like that. And recently, Eric has founded some new technology that is kind of interesting. It's very not just interesting, but it's kind of like changing the way that things are going to revolve around RFPs. And I know that's a sensitive subject. RFPs suck right now. If you guys are in the brokerage field or an asset trucking company, you understand how difficult it is right now with all of the lovely headlines that everybody has out there about how grim the economy is going to be. But Eric and his team over at Beagl Technologies I have kind of cracked the code a little bit. We've demoed this. We've been working with Eric. It's really cool technology. I think you guys are really going to enjoy the show and really enjoy what these guys are bringing to the table. So with that, let's go ahead and bring Eric on. Eric, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how are you?
Good. How's it going in Colorado today?
It's always sunny in Denver. Even when it's not, it's wait 15 minutes and it will be.
That is so true. So true. Denver's an awesome city, though. I've had a lot of fun in Denver in previous lives for sure. So for my audience who do not know you, which I doubt there's very many of them who don't know you, you want to give yourself a little bit of background or give them a background about yourself, and then we can dive into what Beagl Technologies is doing.
Yeah, I'm the unhinged guy on LinkedIn. I play that part online anyways. Eric Williams, Cody, thanks for having me on first.
Yeah, likewise.
I've been in the freight industry for a little over a decade now. Got my starts in financial markets. I was actually a broker on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange a long time ago. We all got automated. So I've sat through a industry that was very large, that had lots of people, that was very lucrative, that has been automated. What's going on in trucking is not what that was. There are a lot of things that we are doing in this industry to make things a little bit better and help people. But on this like massive automation, it doesn't even rhyme with my experience. So started my career when I got into freight at XPO. Spent some time as a account manager and a carrier salesperson. So came in from the ground floor like most people. Gravitated over to pricing, helped build out their over-the-road pricing model. Ran a couple brokerage P&Ls. Moved on to the shipper side. Spent some time at US Foods. Spent some time at DAT, helped with their shipper sales team, and then spent roughly the last 3 years at Target, where I owned the carrier sourcing and for the vendor direct network at Target, about $400 million in annual spend.
That's a lot. That's a very diverse background. I mean, you've seen it from every angle then.
I've sat in all the seats.
Yeah.
So I haven't done AP and AR. But I have collected PODs, so I think that's like close enough.
Yeah, that's the boring part of it, anyways, right? So,
yeah, like I don't know how simple that is. Like getting paid is probably the most important part, and we kind of treat it like an afterthought. So,
yeah.
Well,
let's dive into Beagl.
The story about Beagl, how we founded it.
Yeah. Let's dive into that.
I get a little long-winded, and sometimes I forget where I'm at.
Same here, buddy. Same here.
It's freight. It does it to you.
Yep.
So the idea for Beagl's been in my head for a number of years. And I've created a lot of what you saw yesterday in spreadsheets and have a lot of artifacts around those. But I finally was able to meet two really smart people that can build software and create deep learning models and things like that. And when they wanted to be friends with me, I jumped at the opportunity to partner with smart people. And we started having a conversation this fall around what we wanted to do and created an MVP. And I was able to talk 4 people that I knew. They're on the brokerage side to doing a beta with us. Thank you guys. It was very helpful. Coming out of the beta in February, everyone was kind of all in, and I took that as an opportunity to go full time in March. So, as you mentioned, Cody, we are out here trying to help people with RFPs, and I've talked to I don't know, probably 70, 80 brokerage leaders in the last 6 weeks, and been doing that for a long time in my career. And the general consensus is, if I had to narrow it down to basically 5 things that people don't like about RFPs, is their time and resource suck. You don't get a lot of return out of them, but you have to do them. So a lot of people view them as sunk costs. Workflow and process for a problem. If those 2 are a problem, strategy is going to be a problem not too far behind that. Data integrity. There's a lot of cleansing data that has to go on to be able to do these. The value prop and differentiation. How am I showing up in an RFP where I know there probably might be 80 to 100 other folks in there? How am I differentiating myself? How am I doing that with not just using the same 3 rates that everybody else is looking at? And then this general lack of feedback. So we do all this work, and then we don't get really any feedback from the customer that helps us improve our own process.
Yep. And amen to all of that. I live that every week.
And it's hard, and it's very hard. So what we want to be able to do is help you with that differentiation and value creation, like right up front. And I think the best way to do that, if you were an asset, you would sell the lanes you run.
Yep.
So if you're a broker and you're partnered with assets, why don't you figure out what lanes they like and sell the lanes that they run, and then give your shipper a lot of confidence that you can actually buy like an asset there. So you can do that with your own data. It takes some time if you want to prepare that for an RFP, and inevitably you're going to end up with a spreadsheet that's got a bunch of connections and VLOOKUPs and if statements on it, and then you want to start working through it, and you're going to click on a filter, and then it's going to spin for 38 seconds. Yep. So it doesn't really help you. So I can help with that. We'll automate that process, overlaying your data against your shippers' networks, and we'll give you some maps and things like that, so you have some sales collateral. But then there's this other piece of that. It's like your tribal knowledge, your soft data. And where we want to help with that is, even if the biggest broker out there, I think they do 12 billion a year, if they just took a data-driven approach to their bids and said, if we've never loaded them on these particular lanes, then we don't know anything about them. We all know that they don't load every single carrier on every single lane. So there are lanes that carriers that they work with run that they don't know about, or they do know about them, and it's in somebody's head, or it's on a pad or a sticky note somewhere. We help you get all that information into an organized format. We have a nice carrier CRM we built for you, and you can put in preferred lanes. We can relate that back to your RFP opportunities. And then, so we've done all that, and then some of the feedback that we get is some of the rate products are difficult to differentiate across lanes. And we all know that they're not created equal. So Chicago to Indianapolis, that's a lane that probably everybody knows, and the rate is known on that lane because there's so much activity on it. But Billings, Montana to Lugoff, South Carolina, not a real lane. By the way, that one has a lot of seasonality too. So we have some lane tiers that help differentiate across those lanes. If you're doing a 5,000 lane bid, you can adjust your margin strategy very easily by seeing what those lane tiers are, and then we can talk to you about the seasonality, give you the actual seasonal factor on every single market to market pair at a monthly level. So that's how we're trying to help you you make more sense of these things. So I appreciate you letting me take the time to talk about that.
No, I love it, dude. When we demoed it with you, it definitely caught my attention, and it's a lot of what we do internally, but it's a lot simpler. It's all on one page. It's all in one document, right? It's all in one platform versus trying to pry out all the tribal knowledge from everybody. It's like what you can't do with an RFP is go to every single carrier manager you have and say, hey, give me your input on this, right? It's 5,000 lanes and you got 100 loads to book today. But I need you to look through this and give me your input, right? Like you can't do that. So being able, like for us, I do a lot of my company's pricing. We're not large enough to have a big pricing analyst team, right? So
many aren't.
Yeah, so, and what I can't do is just go to every single one of those guys when I do get a large RFP or any RFP realistically, and say, hand me your carriers. Give me your carriers and let me see. Pull your data, pull your own data. Let me see it. Let me see what they're running those rates at. And then in addition to that, I need you to ask what other rates or what other lanes they run. So if there are some lanes on here that we're not currently doing, and you guys are capturing that. And that's like what's so intriguing. We obviously have carrier CRMs, and they're great at collecting data, right? They're great at collecting contacts and all that fun shit. But what they're not doing is they're not overlaying into the actual RFP itself, which is what you guys are doing. And it's genius in my opinion, because it's what we need. We need to be able to understand not just our power lanes. We're a produce broker. So, anything out of California going to most areas, we can kind of like, ballpark off the top of our head. But if you ask, we started running a lot of stuff out of Grand Forks, South Dakota, right? That's not a place that a lot of people pick up from. It is a power lane for us now, but a year and a half ago, if you would have asked me, I would have been like, check the DAT average, right? I think that's the best I can come up with. And so being able but my point is that we found some of our California carriers that were actually delivering, not to Grand Forks specifically, because there's not much over there, but close enough that those Grand Forks were good reloads for them. And we wouldn't have known that, right? We wouldn't have known that had we not. We got a private load board, and so we went through the normal process of figuring it out for a couple of weeks. But you guys capture that not only from our historical data, but from FMCSA data, right? Is that where you're pulling that from? Yeah.
Yes. That is one of our data sources.
Yeah. So that's great. And the fact that that they're there, right? It's not just a carrier saying, oh yeah, I have trucks there all the time, when in reality, they might have one truck there every 3 weeks, right? You're actually looking at the pings, you're looking at the inspections, you're looking at all that fun stuff where they've actually physically been, right? So that's cool. I love that.
Absolutely.
And it's going to help.
Thank you for the feedback there.
Yeah.
And Cody, like, I think you nailed it. Like, everybody's already doing some version of this.
Yep.
But it's not necessarily repeatable. And I'm guilty of this. So I like these. And depending upon how many of these I've had in a day, I've been known to take the same lane across 2 different bids on the exact same day, just hours apart, and price them differently. And and these types of things happen. So it does help to be able to automate a lot of your strategy data prep and bring it in, so it's very simple. And then you start focusing on that, and then being able to, like, where did we bid this stuff before, and how have we been winning on these, and then what other shippers have the exact same lane that we now have capacity for. Have we talked to that shipper specifically about that capacity? So it's all stuff that every good broker is already doing. We've just built it into a tool so that you can do it a little bit easier.
Yeah. And that's a great point that you just brought up, actually, is because I've been very, very guilty in the past of, I may have the same RFP every quarter, and I didn't look at 2 quarters ago or year over year. What did I bid this last year, and how did I do? Was I in the top 5 carriers? Did I even get feedback?
Right.
Did I win the lane? Did I lose the lane? Obviously, if I won it, I probably had a decent idea on pricing, but it's what you're leaving on the table, right? If you're off by 5 cents a mile, you need to know that, and you need to be able to compare it for just so that you can sharpen that pencil a little bit better. And if it's a lane that you just can't sharpen the pencil on, skip it, right?
Right.
But
yep, exactly. But at least you know that.
Exactly. And so capturing all of that into one platform at the, just a couple clicks versus, we have an analytics individual who designed our Power BI dashboard, all this fun stuff, but it still has to be fed all the time, right? And it has to be updated all the time. And you still have to go from that to our TMS to a couple other things. And it's a pain in the ass, we work with some very large shippers, and we get some 5, 6, 7,000 lane RFPs. And that's a 2-week process for us just to price it out. And we're hoping to win 15 or 20 lanes out of it. So, you being able to simplify that, I can shrink that from 2 weeks down into 2 or 3 days, and hopefully turn those 15 wins into 30 wins. And then maybe a few backup, where I'm number 2, and I might be able to scrape together some profit throughout the RFP or something. So
absolutely. And like, RFPs are like the least sexiest thing to solve for, right? Like,
absolutely.
You're going to build software for an RFP. Okay, cool. How lame for you? I'll bet you're a blast at parties. But the reality of it is in a bad year, 85% of freights can be tendered at a contractual level. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that some of that won't be rejected, but if you put it into a very soft year, you might see 95% of tenders that are are tendered contractually. So it's the single largest revenue opportunity for almost all of your customers. And there's not a lot of great tools out there for it.
Nope. Definitely not all-in-one tools either, right? There's stuff that, they're pretty good at a quarter of it. They're pretty good at a quarter of it. They're, and you got to piece together everything, and you got to pay for all of that.
Right.
So having it like in one platform is just, it was really cool. Your demo was great. I really want to just, get that word out to all of my broker friends out there that are listening or going to be listening to this later. Like, at least reach out, give it a look. And I think it's going to open your eyes to a little bit easier time going through these RFPs, because RFPs should be exciting. That's an opportunity for you to grow your brokerage, hopefully grow your bank account, because most of us work on commission anyways. So this is an opportunity. And when you guys get these monster RFPs, a lot of us are like, oh man, there goes my 2 weeks, no soccer practice for the kids this week, honey. Sorry. So being able to condense that is just, it's really, really cool. And I happen to notice, when you went live with this, I saw all your posts online, and I was like, I got to reach out to Eric. Got to figure out what he's doing, because anytime anyone's going to talk about simplifying RFPs for me, I'm all ears. And I think that there's a lot of brokers out there that are going to be all ears once they hear about it. So
I appreciate it, Cody. Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the freight market?
Oh yeah. I got some headlines we wanted to chat about. I know that you cannot scroll through any news feed right now without seeing tariffs, economy, certain political people bad, certain political people good, which I don't really give a shit one way or the other. All I care about is how it affects us, right? How it affects my company, our industry, and all that fun stuff. Tariffs are good, tariffs are bad, doesn't matter, right? However, it does look like we are going to have, they're projecting for a slowdown, right? It's already been a little bit slow, I'll be honest. Like, even in food and bev, which is what we do, people got to eat. So it's usually recession proof, but there's still been a slowdown. I talked to a really good friend of mine who's a produce grower out in California, saying that this was the slowest summer projection that he's seen in 25 years. Which sucks, because the harvest is actually good. This is the first year in 5 years that we haven't had either a water shortage or flooding in Salinas, in the Salinas Valley. And now it's like nobody needs the product. So most of that's going to end up in processing, instead of actually fresh. Yeah. So it is what it is.
Actually, that hurts my heart. We're just going to grow food and throw it away.
Yeah. Well, good news is a lot of that gets processed, right? Like, a lot of that's going to go to frozen, or, if you think about strawberries, for example, jellies, jams, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
But there is still, it still sucks, because that market is so fruitful, for lack of a better word. And usually, every summer you can bank on it every summer. Salinas goes crazy May through, September, and then Yuma and Nogales goes crazy during the winter, and you can usually bank on it. And it's just been kind of a dud, and it sucks, because there's a lot of people who depend on it. But either way, so headlines. So what's your take on everything? Yeah. With your background, you've seen every side of the coin, right? So what do you think is going to happen based off of what's been published out there?
Well, the slowdown makes sense. And I was in team demand destruction while everybody else was in team inflation. And that was like November, December. So that's happened. Global commodities have fallen. I also thought that might be the case because of a downtick in demand. So we'll see what the inflation is going to look like on the consumer side. But it's going to be, for the most part, probably unique to consumer packaged goods. Will retailers be able to pass through some of this stuff? I don't know. The auto stuff, it looks like that's very fluid. I saw a headline this morning, and it's hard to keep up with all these headlines, because
I know, right? Every day it's different,
and then they get walked back, and then there's new. And what I saw about autos is that U.S. automakers can buy foreign parts without tariffs. So it appears that might be sorting itself out. So that may might just go away. And then we saw the carve outs around electronics, chips and cell phones and things like that. And then they were back on, but they're still off. So who knows what's going on with that? That said, we've got a frozen housing market from interest rates. That's been there. So that's not good for freight. If I was sitting in a brokerage seat or sitting at a shipper, my biggest concern would be what I've been talking about for a while. operating ratios are not where they need to be able to for trucking companies to reinvest in their business. So if we get into a period that's disruptive, either because of excess demand, which I'm not sure where that comes from, or a bullwhip effect from a lull in demand, which could happen if it goes game back on and all those tariffs go away, like we'll probably see a bullwhip. But if we have that lag or that lull, CPG and OEM, a lot of carriers use these to balance their fleets. If one stays relatively flat and one goes way down, then you're not going to be able to get back to where your CPG is. This leads to rejections. And if you run, you can only run inconsistent for so long before your empty miles start to bite you, and your operating ratio that already sucks is now 102, 105 or higher. And then you've got to make this decision of, do I keep equipment on the road? My guess is we're going to see equipment coming off the road. And I think Freightwaves or somebody did an article today that you referenced.
Yep.
I haven't read it yet, but it's talking about layoffs. Okay, well, if that happens, then, and we're already a place where I don't think the market can respond to any excess demand effectively. We saw it in January with storms. We saw it in the flatbed markets this year with normal seasonality.
Yep.
Then if we just remove even more capacity, then the underlying structure of the marketplace is super fragile. So then when demand comes back online, which it always does, like we've had recessions before, we've had a financial recession in 08, economy bounces back. When it does, orders increase, mostly because commodity prices come way down. So people are incentivized to start production again. And when all that starts happening, there will not be sufficient capacity there for it. So I don't know the exact timeline for that or what the magnitude of that's going to look like, but I don't see how dry van freight rates go any lower than they're at right now.
Yep, I agree with you. It's always within 1 or 2%. And a lot of people don't understand how enormous 1 or 2% in the trucking industry is, right? But that's a lot. Oh, yeah, a ton of loads. So to hear, some of the numbers that have been thrown around, like I was reading this morning, I can't remember where it was, but 35% drop in port volume out of Los Angeles and Long Beach. This is coming next week. That's based off the sailing schedule, right, from China. And those are some big numbers, guys. I mean, those are like eye-popping numbers, and that could have a drastic effect. There could be a lot of layoffs. Could not be. I mean, who really knows, right? I mean, I keep reading on, I'm on a couple Facebook groups for drivers and brokers and carriers and all this fun stuff. And I keep reading all this stuff of stay away from California. Everybody stay away from California for a whole month because that'll drive the demand up and prices will go up. And it's like, yeah, I don't think that's how it works. No, it doesn't. No. It's a great theory, right? It's like everyone always says, don't take cheap freight. Don't take cheap freight.
Right.
I mean, it's a catchphrase.
Where I think a lot of this is going to be, so like the port freight that's coming in, most of that's going to go intermodal anyways.
Correct.
And a lot of it's going to go intermodal straight to DCs. So like if you think about Walmart, Target, and Home Depot, those are the 3 largest importers in the U.S. That's all going rail straight into DC. So then we have to worry about the middle mile. So what does that look like for dedicated fleets? Does that mean that dedicated fleets have the ability to, or like, will shippers downsize their fleets during that time because store deliveries are down, or will they just idle them? And like, will that open up excess capacity that flows in the OTR? I don't think, from reading any of the very large trucking companies' earnings, that they have any desire to grow OTR versus dedicated right now. So my suspicion is there'll probably be some things that go on there. But I don't know that like just normal dry van freight that's domestic, like your Cincy's to Columbus's and lanes like that. I don't know that those fall off a cliff just because of a maybe month or 6-week period where we have lower imports.
Yeah,
like I can't get there. Maybe other people can. Maybe my mind just doesn't can't cross that chasm.
Yeah, headlines are headlines, right? Like everybody's trying to just get you to click in, but I'm on the same boat. Like I don't think that it's going to have this impact that everybody says that it's going to. Intermodal is a different story. That is definitely a different story. However, a train can still run. Doesn't matter, right? If it has two or three less cars on it, it's still running, right? And it's still
and all that's going to happen is they'll just stack.
Yep.
And then we'll have to unstack, and that'll be disruptive. So I tend to think that disruption in any form it tends to be supportive of freight rates.
Yep. I think that what could see an impact in the near term would be inter-Cali freight that is supposed to be going to the port. So, there's a lot of poultry, a lot of pork, all that stuff that's exported out of California, right?
Right.
And if that stuff's not moving, that's all being shipped into California, either inter-Cali or regionally into California. That could have an impact on inter-California freight. Long haul stuff, I just don't see this having this massive impact like everybody keeps saying it's going to. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I know that I read this morning that consumer sentiment is like really, really low, like all-time low since like, I guess not all-time low, but since like 2009 or 2010.
Yeah, people aren't.
They're not spending money.
How much is that from reading the news every single day?
Exactly, right? You can't log on to Facebook or LinkedIn or anything and not see, oh my God, it's tariffs are going to bring the end of the world and all this other shit. And it's
and it was just so disingenuous. Here's a cell phone. The cost is going up 100%.
Come on. Yeah, exactly. That's a headline. It got our attention though. So good job. Yeah. Good job, guys. But yeah, I don't see it, to quote FreightWaves, exactly what they said on here was Apollo Global Management forecasts a severe U.S. recession triggered by recent tariffs, which will lead to widespread layoffs in the trucking and retail sectors amid rising economic uncertainty.
Apollo's got what, half a trillion in AUM, assets under management?
I believe so, yeah.
They're not small.
No.
They would also be very large beneficiaries from the Federal Reserve starting to cut rates and
100%.
So,
yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it doesn't matter what you read. Everything's like negative these days, but I can speak from experience. Like we're still trucking, we're actually up year over year on our load counts.
Awesome.
It's a lot of brokers that I work with, or know, I guess not really work with, but know in the industry. Nobody's saying that they're going out of business anytime soon.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's all BS. There's a slowdown coming, but economically we needed a slowdown anyways. We were out of control there for a little while. Prices couldn't continue up and to the right forever before, you have a slowdown. If you look at any 10-year period in the US, there's always ups and downs, right?
For sure.
I just think it's all bullshit.
And Cody, like my stance on this is, and I used to be a doomsdayer, right? Like I had a front row seat for the financial crisis, and it impacted me as an individual. And I was very much like, oh yeah, well we're just printing money. And that's why things are, but it didn't matter, right? The economic activity went on. It didn't necessarily matter what the source was. So what my point is okay, if we have a slowdown, it's better to know that we're going to have a slowdown and be prepared for it, and then continue to hope for the best. Because if you're a business owner, you probably need to be pretty optimistic about what you're doing. Not non-realistic, but optimistic about, well, maybe I'm wrong. Because if you just kind of walk around in fear, and then it ends up happening what you were afraid of, you actually punished yourself twice.
Right.
All those days leading up to it, and then when it actually happened, versus, okay, well, this could happen. Let's make plans for it. What are the most likely places that would be impacted? Because it's not going to be symmetric. So, to your point, like maybe stay out of California, if you can. But I think clicking down into your strategy is the most important thing anybody can be doing right now.
100%. I used to have a vice president that would always end his meetings with us, his staff meetings with, just remember, Chicken Little never wins the race. And it's like, that's never. So you can say the sky's falling all you want, but guess what? If it does fall, to your point, if you don't have a plan for it, who cares? You can't prevent it. Like saying it's going to happen doesn't prevent anything.
Yeah.
So and anyone who's been in brokerage longer than, I don't know, since the start of COVID, everybody knows that when it goes up, it's going to come down. And when it goes down, guess what? We're going to go back up at some point in time. So plan for it, make sure that you're, financially stable as a company. And then at the end of that, know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel and be prepared to take that jump. There's a lot of brokerages, I'm not going to name any of them, that I saw jump in revenue, double and triple during COVID. right? They went from being a very small player, a mid-level guy, to they're one of the top 50 now, because they were able to take advantage of that really hot freight market. 2018 kind of had similar effects too, right? Like it had that jump from the tariff. It was tariffs and ELDs, kind of 17, 18. Had that huge jump. Then 19 was kind of, a lull. It was really bad in 19. But the guys who are going to prosper long term and be around in 20 years and be able to survive all this stuff are the ones who understand that there's a time to pivot, and you got to have plan A, B, and C depending on what's going to happen, and just be prepared for it.
Yeah, so, some of this shit you just got to sell right through.
Right, exactly. And just cut through the bullshit and only focus on what's in front of you, right? Like I always say, own the day, right? You don't need to worry about 3 months from now. Like, don't ignore it, because there's obviously things that as a business owner or an executive that you obviously have to have a plan for, but own the day, just make sure that today you're focused on being the best that you can possibly be. And you're moving that needle. 1% every day is going to pay dividends at the end of the year.
I love that.
So yeah, it's good stuff. So we are actually coming up on time. I will have a link for you guys though, to be able to use, if you want to get a hold of Eric. Obviously he's on LinkedIn, but you'll be able to use to at least, get a referral code for Beagl or whatever, we're going to decide on. But definitely guys, all my broker friends, check it out. At the very least, it's going to open your eyes from what you guys are currently doing to what is out there. And, sign up, don't sign up. You're probably going to want to sign up once you actually see the technology that he's putting together there, but definitely check it out, guys. It's going to change how you guys are operating, and it's going to save you time so that you can focus on building revenue in your company. Now is more important than ever. Now you got to be making more dials. You got to be making more in-person contacts. If you're not, good luck surviving what might be coming the next year or two. So check it out, guys. Reach out to Eric. Eric, I really appreciate you being on, buddy. Great information.
Thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
Cool.
Thanks, guys.